Benin is on high alert tonight. 14 soldiers, including the officer who appeared on national TV, have been arrested after an attempted coup that shook the country at dawn. The government says the plot has been crushed, the army remains loyal, and order has been restored. Before we continue with our analysis, let's listen to the full statement from Benin's foreign minister addressing the nation.
Fellow countrymen and women, on this Sunday, December the 7th, 2025, in the early morning, a small group of soldiers engaged in mutiny in order to destabilize the state and its institutions. Before this situation, the Benin armed forces and their hierarchy, faithful to their oath, remained republican. They fought back and allowed the situation to remain under control and to fail the maneuver. Thus, the government invites the population to keep acting as usual.
The foreign minister's statement confirms what many in the region were waiting to hear. The attempted coup in Benin has been contained, and the government insists that the country remains under full civilian control. But behind this calm announcement lies a deeper, more complex story that deserves careful analysis. First, let's look at what actually happened. In the early hours of December 7th, a small group of soldiers, led by Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigré, launched what appears to have been a coordinated attempt to seize political power. They managed to reach state television, where they announced that President Patrice Talon had been removed and replaced by a new military-led committee. This is a highly symbolic move. Seizing the national broadcaster is often the first step in staging a coup because it allows the plotters to control the narrative and project authority. However, within a short period, the government regained control. 14 officers were arrested, and according to officials, the majority of the military remained loyal to the state and to the constitutional order. The foreign minister emphasized this loyalty, repeating that the armed forces were faithful to their oath and that the coup attempt was swiftly neutralized. This strong messaging is designed to reassure the population and prevent panic or misinformation from spreading. But to truly understand this moment, we must go beyond the official statement and examine the broader context that made such an attempt possible. Benin has long been viewed as a stable democracy, one of the few in West Africa that maintained regular elections and peaceful transitions for more than 3 decades. Yet beneath that image, political tensions have been rising steadily for years. Since President Talon began his reforms, opposition figures have been imprisoned, political participation has narrowed, and new electoral laws have made it harder for challenger parties to compete. These actions created resentment within segments of the population and even within parts of the security forces. The mutinous soldiers attempted to tap into those grievances. In their televised declaration, they accused the president of mismanaging the country, suppressing political voices, and failing to address rising insecurity in the northern regions. An insecurity driven by jihadist expansion from Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Although Benin is not a Sahel country, it is increasingly exposed to the same militant threats that are destabilizing its neighbors. These frustrations provided the emotional and political fuel behind the coup attempt. But the failure of the mutiny also reveals something important. The vast majority of Benin's institutions, including the National Guard and the Army Command, were unwilling to abandon constitutional order. This suggests that, at least for now, President Talon still holds institutional legitimacy, even if political dissatisfaction continues to grow. Now let's examine the timing. Benin enters a major election cycle in 2026, with legislative and presidential elections scheduled. President Talon has announced he will step down, but many citizens question whether the transition will be genuinely open or whether it is designed to install a preferred successor. For some, this creates fears of a controlled political handover, similar to arrangements seen elsewhere in the world, where an outgoing president remains influential behind the scenes. This electoral uncertainty is one reason analysts believe the coup attempt occurred now, before the transition begins, and at a moment when political actors may feel the opportunity to influence the future of the country is slipping away. But the consequences of today's events go beyond Benin. West Africa has experienced a wave of coups and attempted coups over the past 5 years, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Niger, Gabon, and repeated instability in Guinea-Bissau. With this latest incident, Benin joins the list of countries forced to confront the fragility of their political systems. ECOWAS, the regional body, has already been under intense pressure to respond to democratic erosion and military takeovers. But the bloc's credibility has been weakened by inconsistent actions and its failure to address the root causes of coups: declining public trust, economic hardship, corruption, insecurity, and the sense that elections alone do not guarantee real democracy. Benin's coup attempt will likely intensify debates about how the region should deal with this rising instability and whether traditional diplomatic tools are still effective. For the people of Benin, today is a turning point. Even though the government says order has been restored, the psychological impact of seeing soldiers on national television claiming power cannot be underestimated. It signals that frustration within the military exists and that political cracks are deeper than official narratives suggest. Moving forward, the government will need to address not just the symptoms, the arrests, the immediate security response, but the underlying issues that allowed this mutiny to emerge. In the end, the foreign minister's statement provides reassurance, but it also serves as a warning. Benin's stability can no longer be taken for granted. The country must navigate political transition, rising insecurity, and public grievances carefully if it hopes to maintain the democratic reputation it has held for decades. Voice of Africa will continue monitoring this developing story and bring you verified updates as they emerge.